If you don't mind giving our invocation, we certainly would appreciate it, please.
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this day and thank you for an opportunity to gather. Thank you for the people who have chosen to take on responsibility and oversee things in this town. I love you and thank you for all your oversight and all that you've done, bringing new people in and taking care of those who've been here a while. We pray that you will give courage and strength, sound mind, and discipline to those who lead. We pray that they'll have an ear to hear and that they will make the moves that are most beneficial to the kingdom and to our town. We trust that. We trust them. And Lord, we fully support them. And we ask your blessing on the people here, the people of this town, and those who serve in every aspect in this community. We love you and thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Brian. Brian has been a friend of mine for several years. He's been very active in the faith community in and around the city of Monroe, works with a lot of our athletes from Monroe area, as well as George Walton. And we'll be beginning this week working at Watkinsville First Baptist. Thanks for coming, B-Wood. Appreciate it. I'm going to call this meeting to order of the February 8th, 2022 City Council meeting for the city of Monroe. I'll let the record reflect that all members of the council are present. As we move into the approval of the agenda, I do need a motion, please, to go ahead and table the preliminary plat review for the River Point subdivision off of Cedar Ridge. And we can go ahead and table that and then move forward into approval of the agenda, please.
I'll offer a motion to table the preliminary plat review for River Point.
I have a motion by Ms. Malcolm. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Garrett. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Now I need a motion for the approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion approved by Mr. Boyce. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Malcolm. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Moving to the approval of the consent agenda, which is the council minutes from last month, Planning Commission, Historic Preservation, Downtown Development, and CVB minutes. I need a motion to approve, please.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion by Ms. Crawford. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a second by Mr. Little. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. That passes. Moving to public comments, I have two tonight. I have Mr. Kelvin Bird from Monroe, but from Michael Etchison. Mr. Bird, did I pronounce that correctly? How are you, sir? Thank you for coming in.
I just wanted to speak on, I don't really know how to say it, but it's like police harassment on our community. As a black man, I already kind of fear for my life when I drive down here because of the police around here. They use intimidation really to get something out of you. On January the 4th, I've been here my whole life. I continuously get pulled over and pulled over and pulled over just for the simplest things. And it's kind of mind-boggling because you don't never know when you're gonna make it home. And I have three beautiful kids that I love to go home to. But on January 4th, I was pulled over by Mr. Palmer, which he was actually sitting on Walker Drive. I was coming through, he was sitting there on this, where it's like a white church where they always sit. I know this because I always ride there. I'm constantly going around my city. My whole family is here.
Right.
So I drive, I pass him. He comes out behind me. I'm talking about he gets up on my butt, so I just go ahead and pull over for him. He just sits there. So I drive off, and then he pulls me over. Mr. Palmer exits his vehicle, comes to my passenger side, tells me, sir, your brake light's out. I'm like, okay, cool. I ain't giving no argument. Like, I'm so used to being messed with and being bothered. I already got my license and registrations ready for him. I give him my license and registrations. He looks at it, says, okay. He walks around to my driver's side. He said, well, why don't you go ahead and step out so we can check your brake lights. I already knew then something was suspicious because can't nobody check your brake lights without you putting your foot on the brakes. Right. So I never stepped out, and he asked me one more time, can you step out of the vehicle? I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm not even gonna step out of my vehicle, sir. At this time, he gets angry. He pulls his baton off his hip. He's ready to break my glass. So in fear of my safety, I actually pulled off. I took him to the sheriff's department. I drove him straight to the sheriff's department, fearing like maybe I can get here and get some kind of safety. As soon as I get there, I jump out of my truck, park my truck, hop out. He tells me to get down, get down. I'm pretty much like, my mind is already bottled. Because I'm nervous, I don't know what to do. It's get down, get down. He hit me with the taser. And I'm telling him, man, you know you're wrong, man. You know you're wrong. I just want to speak on that because it is happening to so many of us, and they're getting away with it with simple traffic violations that they're pulling us over for that doesn't really make sense, so they can just get a way into our cars and take over the stuff that this is our property. We have rights like everybody else do, but they treat us like we don't have no rights. They treat us like we just ain't human. That's how I feel.
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to speak on it.
Well, thank you. And I'm sorry you had to go through that. Is this number? You can step forward if you don't mind. I'll let the chief call you. Okay. Thank you for coming in, Mr. Byrd. Next, I have Mr. Alan Grubbs. Hey, Alan. Alan and my brother were in, I think, preschool together, right?
Yeah, from that big to.
That's how I heard my first Leonard Skinner album at his house.
I would like to propose that we change the flag of Monroe. I think our flag currently has two fatal issues. One, we do not use it. In 54 years of me living here, I've never seen us fly it one single time. Issue number two is it's almost identical to the European Union flag. So I have designed and will be happy to give to Monroe a new flag. Nice and simple. This flag, 4 stripes, red, white, and blue because we're Americans. 4 stripes to represent the state of Georgia, which is the fourth state to ratify the Constitution. 7 stars to represent Monroe being the county seat for the 7 incorporated communities of Monroe, and 7 points on those stars to represent the 7 men of Monroe who went on to be governor of Georgia. I have shopped this flag around to first responders. They all like it. I've shopped it around to shop owners. They all like it. It's distinguished. It can be, the design is strong, not as in a show of force, but the design itself is strong enough that you can modify it. It can be scaled from the size of a tie tack all the way up to a billboard, and it's still recognizable for what it is. It can be changed and used for advertising purposes. You can make uniforms easily enough out of it. What else? I didn't prepare.
Well, it looks like you did a little preparation.
A little bit. And even hanging on the wall like that, it's still recognizable for what it is. Right. So if y'all have it, I'll give you a flag design. We'll actually use, like I said, the shop owners like it. The first responders I've spoken to, both police and fire departments and deputies, all like it.
I like it. I think it's very well thought out and attractive design.
Georgia has shown precedent that we're willing to change a flag if we don't like the flag.
Right.
Here it is.
Well, do you mind leaving it with me? And that may be something we can act on, if not next month, the month after. I'd love to get everybody's input.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Alan. I appreciate it. I promise. Thanks, Alan. Moving into business items, let's go to city administrator report, please, Mr. Probst.
Thank you, Mayor. A couple items to note. We recently finished up on January 31st our redistricting workshop. Created several maps. We'll continue that process and hopefully get that wrapped up fairly soon. I'll be back in touch with all of you soon on that. If you haven't been out to the Blaine Station to check out the progress there, where the new police department's located. It's looking really good. That's coming along. Chris may have more to say on that later. I don't know, but you know, such a huge project. It's kind of in that end stage. We'll be doing the RFP on it before too long. But take a spin out there. It's really coming together. We're proud of it. Traffic calming projects are out for bid now, so it's 30-day bid window, and then we'll be bringing it back to you all for approval. That is in process. It'll probably be summertime before all of that is finished, based on realistic expectations of the construction timeline. The downtown green is also out for bid right now, so again, that's going to be a pretty long project. We'll take the balance of the year, probably into early next year as well. And then finally, the truck bypass is still making great progress. It is a high priority with the state of Georgia. Rodney and Brian met with them last week on some utility impairments and areas we need to move some things on. There was a slight redesign on the southern end down here at 11, but we'll get all that handled, but it is progressing along pretty well, so making progress on that. Those are the main items I wanted to hit tonight, Mayor.
Just a few, thank you. Are there any questions for Logan? Hearing none, we'll move to Assistant City Administrator report. Mr. Bailey?
Thank you. CDBG 2020, if you've been down East Washington in that area, there is a lot of concrete pipe in the right-of-way. I had sent something out on Facebook, and then I had tried to communicate with various members of the council that we had the option of trying to order a little bit at the time and probably not get it, or order it all and just figure it out when we got it. Well, we ordered it all, and we're figuring it out now that we've got it. But progress is ongoing. Right now, we're still on schedule for that 180-day project to complete itself. The only other update I had on Plaza was that we are to the point of a punch list. It's simply painting the curbing, the little caution stripe, and pressure washing sidewalks, and touching up the front window panels. So we're coming along with that and should be completed here shortly in the next few weeks.
And
Then the entire complex pretty much goes out to an RFP for the development that we had taken a look at to see kind of what we can get in return. So we'll see what it becomes at that point. The airport, still working with engineers on a maintenance hangar. They're working on site plans that I hope will come before you guys next month. Terminal building is out to bid currently. We'll see what that comes back as in March. I'm hoping it's somewhere near the budget that was proposed of $550,000, but we'll see. Then there is potential of another 12-unit T-hanger to be built on the site. So, City Brandon, our logo, we're currently shopping around different vendors to change out vehicle logos, working on uniforms, stuff like that. We did get a price back on the water tank, which was much lower than anticipated. So that's something that we'll look at maybe as we get into the summer months. The other couple of items, the parks, we've had good updates on Matthews. We should have a pavilion in the next 3 to 4 weeks, start the build out there. The restrooms, they are almost complete. I actually spoke with Mr. Middlebrooks earlier about us getting the base, the sewer, water, everything situated to where those can be set in place sometime probably March, April, if I had to guess. The lake itself will get artificial beds and whatnot, feeders put around on February the 17th. They're actually supposed to come and install that. So a lot of progress there. Other than that, streets has been very busy with sidewalks, cleanup, leaves, taking down the lights and children's. We did have another sinkhole appear near the library, so dealing with that. And purchasing, procurement, Logan mentioned a couple bids. We're busy right now. So any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
When are they gonna tackle that asphalt out there at Matthew Point?
We'll do that come springtime after we get the pavilion in place, the bathroom in place, so that we're not driving over new asphalt essentially. That would be that, and sidewalks to be ADA accessible and compliant will be the last components of it.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Bailey? Any comments? Hearing none, Chris, you want to go jump in the FBO commercial lease agreement, please?
Yes, sir. This is just to ask essentially for the FBO Fairweather Flights that has been there for the previous 5 years. We have a 5-year renewal option in the contract that existed, and this is to ask for approval for the next 5 years. They want to remain, and we're happy to keep them on site.
Thank you, Mr. Bailey. Are there any questions for Chris? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion. I have a motion to approve by Mr. Garrett. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Malcolm. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. That passes. Moving to Beth Thompson, renewal of our property and casualty insurance.
Thank you, Mayor. This is the, as you said, the property and casualty premium renewal for the term of April 2022 to April 2023. There is a 4.99% increase year over year. The way that this is presented, this is pretty much asking y'all for the approval of the renewal. It appears that it would be over budget of what we budgeted. However, because this goes into 3 months of 2023, that expense will go into 2023. So it'll actually be less than budgeted based on how we accrue that. But it will all be paid, so the cash will actually be gone in 2022. But the accrual of the expense will be partially in 2023 as a prepaid item. So I just want to point that out. This is Mr. Bob Seville with Seville and Associates, who will go over the renewal and answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, thank you, Beth. It's good to see y'all in person this year.
Thanks for coming, Bob.
Well, the 5% increase is a really good number in the insurance industry this year. We've had 10 years of level, and we managed to keep it level last year. We changed carriers, and we had some claims experience this year. And, you know, we can't go into the specific claims. Paul's familiar with them. But those normally would drive the rate a lot more than this. But we changed carriers this year, and the new carrier, Travelers, did not incur those claims. It was the previous carrier. So that helped a little bit. But it may impact our experience rating at some point in time. So I think everybody has the copy of this summary.
Yes, sir.
And you've had a chance to look over it. There was very little change in the exposures. Vehicles went down a little bit, property stayed about the same, and so did the equipment. If you look at the bottom, the 5% applies to the traveler's lines, which is what you'd consider your primary insurance lines. And then the two lines underneath it are the cyber liability and the airport liability. The cyber liability I have in yellow, and to really make it simple, the cyber liability has been a war for the last year. All the carriers have lost money. All the premiums have doubled. The deductibles have gone up, and they're still losing money. And I think everybody's familiar with the ransomware issues and the different things that go on. So I somewhat surprised Steve with some of the additional steps that the carriers want us to take to make the city even more secure. And I would say the city of Monroe is one of the most secure cities of the 300 we write. But I asked Steve to step out of the booth. We spent about an hour together earlier in the week, last week, and went through all the steps and measures and things that would make it even more secure. So we want to make sure there's no disruption. So the yellow is what travelers would charge someone if they came, if this was our first year. So we wanted to use their maximum guideline of what they would have as a minimum premium and a minimum deductible, and that's what those are. Probably it's going to be less than that, but we wanted to just put down that number at this point, and we should know that. Probably, Steve, would you say in 30 days? 30 days we'll be finished with our process? Are there any questions? Okay,
Doesn't look like it.
good.
I do want to know, Steve's done a great job putting in a lot of hard work here in the 11th hour to get all this done. And thanks, Bob, for bringing that to our attention.
Thank you, Bob. Steve, hang on one second, okay? With no further questions or comments, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
I have a motion by Mr. Gregory. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Little. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries, that passes. Now, I did ask Steve to stick around out here because he is celebrating about his 4th week of wedded bliss, correct? 4th, 5th? Congratulations, man. You don't have to turn all red. I'm just don't make it stand up front. Congratulations. Moving to the fire truck CIP edition report. Chief Dykes.
Thank you, Mayor. This request is for council to approve the use of $575,000 in ARPA funding to proceed with the purchase of the fire engine that's currently found within the 2023 capital budget through a Sourcewell cooperative purchasing contract. Just to give a brief background on this is a project that we had already been preparing for with next year's CIP budget. However, about, 3 weeks ago, Beth received confirmation that ARPA funds could be utilized for the purchase of fire apparatus. And so I have expedited this request because we're looking at multiple issues facing that manufacturing market. First of all, we're looking at a 7.5% increase in production cost to go into effect later this year, in addition to a 14-month lead time. So even if we were to issue a PO right now, we're still looking at July, August of 2023 before arrival and payment. And also looking at this cooperative purchasing contract, it expires in April, and I don't think that, we don't know what the new contract terms are going to be, but I doubt that they're going to be better than the current terms. So in a nutshell, we can utilize ARPA funding now, go ahead and get this ordered and save that additional money before those price increases go into effect if we were to wait until the original time that we had planned on order. This is going to require some budget movement because it was originally CIP proposal, and with it being ARPA, I believe Beth would do a budget amendment to show that coming in on the income side for this year that would cover us issuing a purchase order and then make another budget amendment to transfer that money into the 2023 budget for those funds to actually be present upon delivery. So there's a lot of moving parts since it's a little bit of a non-traditional way of going about sourcing. I'm more than happy to answer any questions that you've got and hope that I explained that well enough.
I think you got it. Thank you. Are there any questions for Chief?
Thank you. Just to
and Chief Dice and I have talked about this a good bit, just so everybody understands, if I understand correctly. We'll have a motion tonight to move this from the CIP budget 23 to 22, but we actually won't spend the money to 23, but we need to place the order today so we can have it ready.
No, Mr. Bradley, this is actually to, for y'all to approve the purchase of the apparatus, so we can move forward with purchasing. We're not actually moving any funds until potentially 2023. So it's just approval to purchase it and to use American Rescue Plan money funding instead of CIP funding.
So we're not moving it from the budget. Excuse me, I misunderstood.
Thank you, Beth. Are there any other questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve the purchase.
A motion by Mr. Dickinson and a second by Mr. Bradley. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. That passes. Moving to Public Works Commercial Garbage Truck. Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We're asking your approval to purchase a Heil front-load commercial garbage truck at $319,835 with the increase of $18,835. We budgeted $301,000. And it'll be purchased through Sourcewell, through our national membership contract. And the purchase was pre-approved by the Public Works Committee to get ahead of the potential increase for the next month. And the truck will become our second primary truck. We'll use the Mack as a backup because we are actually growing pretty fast here in town. We just need to make sure we cover all the bases. And I take any questions that you might have.
You are covering a whole lot of ground. Are there any questions for Danny? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Motion to approve by Mr. Dickinson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Gregory. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. That passes. Moving to the emergency purchase of a truck. Mr. Middlebrooks.
Thank you, Mayor. Most of you received all of you should have received an email, I think it was back in December, and I either heard from you or spoke to most of you, but this was a emergency purchase of our pump station truck. The turbos on the diesel came apart and sent pieces through the motor and ruined it. And anyway, so we were at a situation where we had to replace this truck as soon as possible because of what it is and what it carries. It's probably got more equipment than any truck I've got to be able to work on these pump stations. But anyway, we had 3 bids. All 3 of these were in stock, Ford, a Chevrolet, and a Dodge. And the low bid was $66,199.64 from Rick Hendrick Chevrolet.
Thank you, Rodney. Are there any questions for Mr. Middlebrooks? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
A motion to approve by Mr. Little. Is there a second?
Second.
Are you, Tyler? Second by Mr. Gregory. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. As you recall, we moved the preliminary plat review to next month. Move to the new business, public hearing, rezoning of 120 Vine Street. Mr. Kelly?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you said, this is a rezone request at 120 Vine Street by Brown Oil Distributors LLC and Down to Earth Properties LLC to rezone the former Conestoga Manufactured Home Park to a planned industrial district on Vine Street. Staff recommendation is for approval as submitted with conditions, but the Planning Commission recommended approval with the removal of an NAICS code, which included meat rendering, but the applicant has also modified their request to remove all uses from that code except for the rendering of grease, which would eliminate the concern about potential slaughterhouse and rendering type things like that, and leave that code in there with that singular use still permitted. So that's the application.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Are there any questions for Patrick? Hearing none, I'll declare this portion of the meeting open for public input. Is there anyone here who would like to speak in favor? Is the developer here? I think I see two of you back there. Rick, Wesley? Would you like to say anything? We might in a minute. There's just the public part. Council will come back to it in just a second. Is there anyone here who'd like to speak for the rezone? Anyone here who'd like to speak against the rezone? Hearing none, I'll declare that portion of the meeting closed, and we'll come back and revisit that in just a moment. Moving to the zone ordinance code text amendment number 13, Mr. Kelly.
Yes, sir. Thank you again, Mr. Mayor. This is an amendment proposed by the staff to change two portions of the zoning code. Lord have mercy, my iPad's trying to shut itself off. The first one is section 644.2 to amend the language for the Mill Housing District overlay district to reduce the minimum acreage from 1 acre to 0.4 acres for that zoning classification. The additional change would be for section 643.3 to add a subsection, insert a new subsection, revising the number of listed locations. It's basically taking the central business district out of the CDO requirements because they have their own certificate of appropriateness process in the zoning ordinance as we adopted it recently.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Are there any questions for Patrick?
Can we just get just a clarification, I guess, of the changing the one in the Mill District, the purpose and what it accomplishes?
I'm sorry, can you say that again, please? The changing,
Purpose and what it accomplishes on this change.
Patrick, would you like to address?
Sure. We've had that Mill Housing District overlay on the books for quite some time, I think since '07, if I'm not mistaken, and it hasn't been utilized yet. So giving opportunity for a smaller aggregation of land or smaller existing parcels down to 1/4 of an acre would encourage an additional type of infill for the city to allow for residential development and small cluster type development.
Am I correct that most of, or many of the houses there today already built on, that would fit under this clarification, and under this
I think so.
thing?
Yeah, well, the mill houses exist as they are. They would have to be, most of them are on lots much smaller than this.
What I'm saying.
They would have to be aggregated and they could be added to. Even if they went up to an acre, they could, and only had 4 houses, they could go up to 10 units.
I guess my point is, if we approve this and infill happens there, it would fit into the existing situation we have.
Absolutely.
Not something odd.
It would augment it, absolutely.
That's what I thought. and I just
Yes, sir.
Sure it's clarified, yeah.
Thank you, Larry. Any other questions for Patrick? Hearing none, I'll declare this portion of the meeting open for public input. Is there anyone here who'd like to speak in favor of this text amendment? Is there anyone here who'd like to speak against? Hearing none, I'll declare that portion of the meeting closed. We'll revisit in just a couple of minutes. Moving to new business, the rezone of 120 Vine Street. I'll open the floor to council members only for discussion or questions. Note Mr. Sisk and Mr. Hussager here, and they can answer any questions you may have, or we can just talk amongst ourselves, or I'll entertain a motion.
I move approval.
I have a motion by Mr. Larry Bradley to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
I'm going to take David Dickinson as the second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries, that passes. I do have a couple of appointments to the tree board. We had the two appointments that need to be filled. First one's the appointment that will be vacated by Ms. Oaks, Elaine Oaks, when her term expires March 1st. Ms. Camille Garrison would like to serve in her place, and I need a motion to appoint Ms. Camille Garrison for a 3-year term to expire March 1st, 2025.
Move to approve.
A motion by Mr. Nathan Little. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Malcolm. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries, that passes. Next, Ms. Susan Pelham has resigned her position on the tree board She was set to expire March 1st, 2023. She wrote a note this morning that just said, after many years of serving, and it has been a great pleasure, please accept this communication as notice of her resignation. Susan Sykes would like to serve on the tree board in her place, and I need a motion to appoint Ms. Susan Sykes to fill that unexpired term that will be vacated by Ms. Susan Pelham, set to expire March 1st, 2023.
Move to approve.
I have a motion by Mr. Gregory. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Crawford. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Motion carries. That passes. Moving to the second reading, procedural ordinance and resolution readings. Mr. Rosenthal.
Thank you, Mayor. This hopefully will be the last time you have to hear me read a lot of things, because if you pass this, then we can accept ordinances and resolution in summarial form, absent an objection or one of you wanting the full reading. So this is an ordinance of the Mayor and Council of the City of Monroe, Georgia, to limit the full and complete oral reading of city ordinances and resolutions at city council meetings, whereas the City of Monroe has been vested with substantial legislative power to adopt clearly reasonable ordinances, resolutions, and regulations relating to its property affairs and local government for which no provision has been made by general law. And whereas Section 2.05C of the city charter permits the city council to adopt rules and bylaws to govern the conduct of its business, and whereas Section 2.12 of the city charter requires that each ordinance shall be in written form and read at a minimum of 2 meetings of the mayor and council, except in emergency situations, before being voted upon. And whereas the city desires to limit the full and complete oral reading of the entirety of city ordinances and resolutions to be considered at city council meetings. And whereas the mayor and council are aware that matters to be considered by them at their called and regular meetings, including proposed ordinances and resolutions, will be properly posted to the city's website and other required forms of communication available to the public prior to the meetings in accordance with the Georgia Open Meetings Act by city staff, and that with such public posting, the citizens of Monroe and those concerned with matters to be considered by the mayor and council will have opportunity to review and read ahead of time any proposed items to be considered by the mayor and council, and whereas such opportunity prior to the meetings of the mayor and council to review proposed ordinances and resolutions obviates the need to orally read the entirety of each proposed ordinance and resolution, while still affording the public an opportunity to be well informed of the proposed actions of the mayor and council. Now, therefore, be it ordained that the mayor and council of Monroe do hereby declare and adopt this ordinance as follows. Number one, the preamble of this ordinance shall be considered to be and is hereby incorporated by reference as if fully set out herein. Number two, the full and complete textual oral reading of future city ordinances and resolutions before the mayor and council for their consideration shall not be required, but may be summarized by the title of the proposed ordinance or resolution and the substance of the same to be considered by the council contained therein by city staff upon presentation of the same to the mayor and council. And number three, upon motion made by the mayor or any one city council member without the need of a second or vote on the same, to request a full and complete textual oral reading of any ordinance or resolution under consideration by the mayor and council, the ordinance or resolution shall be read aloud in its entirety at the same city council meeting. Number four, this ordinance shall become effective upon its adoption. This constitutes the second reading, the 8th day of February 2022. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Rosenthal. Any questions for Paul? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to adopt the ordinance.
I have a motion by Mr. David Dickinson to adopt the ordinance. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
I have a second by Ms. Malcolm. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. That passes. Moving to the first reading of the zoning ordinance code text amendment number 13. Patrick's already explained this amendment. Does council wish to have this ordinance read? Thank you. Second reading will be at the March 8th council meeting. Then we need to move to the resolution of the amendment to the Walton County Service Delivery Strategy. Mr. Probst.
Thank you, Mayor. As you know, a couple of months ago, we amended the SDS from 2019 for a variety of reasons, the Joint Development Authority and their water and sewer infrastructure, as well as clarifying City of Monroe's position on wastewater service areas. In the meantime, the City of Loganville did the same thing. We just couldn't get it all timed out in the exact same way. So that's the reason and purpose here for the resolution before you, is to amend the SDS for Loganville's recent SDS amendment to wastewater.
Are there any questions for Logan? Comments? Hearing none, does council wish to have this resolution read? So much easier. Not, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
A motion by Ms. Malcolm to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Nathan Little. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed, like sign. Motion carries, that passes. Moving to the resolution in support of grant match application for 2022 Historic Preservation Fund, CLG Survey and Planning Grant. Ms. Krosick?
Yes, this is the same grant that we applied for last year to conduct an update to our historic resource survey. And we received the first grant, and it's underway. This is the second round of funding, so we're applying for it again.
How long will this last?
Each grant's for 1 year, but we have 4 years ahead of us to get through all of our potentially historic properties that need to be surveyed and then updated in the state database.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments for Sadie? Hearing none, does council wish to have this resolution read? If no, I'll entertain a motion.
Move approval.
Motion by Mr. Larry Bradley to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Gregory. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries, that passes. Moving to district items. District 1, Ms. Malcolm, do you have anything?
Publix has opened. We had a record-breaking attendance. We were only number 2 out of the whole
Out of everybody.
nation, I believe, other than Knoxville, Tennessee. So I think that is quite a feat for our city, and moving forward, it will offer another alternative to shopping, not only for groceries, for many other things. So far, the traffic flow has not seemed to be terrible. I have not been there at 5 o'clock or tried to get there at 5. I haven't had any complaints, but hopefully the traffic flow will go well and we won't have too much bottleneck right now. I'm sure those challenges are amongst us, and they will come.
And I agree, Lee. Thank you for all of you for helping see the Monroe Pavilion through, at least to get the first store open. We should probably have 5 to 6 more stores open by the end of March. So, moving to Ms. Crawford.
Excuse me.
Anything else?
Well, I'm steadily getting calls about the city hall, customers not being able to handle their business daily, so
Why?
they said they can't come in. A couple of them, the door was locked.
It's open. It's been open for a couple of weeks. We reopened. So if they can't get in, they might be going to the back, but the front's open. Mr. Boyce? I'm sorry, Marcia, do you have anything else?
No, that's all the call I'm getting.
Maybe we need something on social media letting people know, again, that it is open. That might help.
Yeah, it's been softly open. We tried to refill some positions, and I think we're back fully staffed, so we can definitely announce that.
New hire start yesterday, right? Mr. Boyce?
No concern, just go around.
Thank you. Mr. Bradley?
Don't have anything, Steve.
Mr. Garrett? Thank you. Mr. Gregory?
Nothing today.
Mr. Little?
No, I don't have.
David Dickinson?
Nothing else?
That was quick and painless. Mine won't be quite as quick, but I'll try. Keeping you in the loop, Alan Yancey from the Monroe Area High School Environmental Club and his team are doing a community cleanup on February 19th. I will have an exact location they're going to be focusing on in the next couple of days. If y'all would like to help, would like to recruit some folks, they would be delighted. He said they'd have anywhere from 5 to 50, so we'll see. COVID numbers are down, but we are still offering testing at Blaine Station as a part of Atlanta, free Atlanta testing site. It's a federal grant. I want to congratulate Sadie and Leanne and the DDA. Last year, we had more than 106,000 visitors to our events, and we had $18.4 million in public-private investment, which is by far a record, correct? It's a good time to be in Monroe. Redistricting, we've all been talking about it, and you've already mentioned Publix, so thank you to everybody, and I need a motion to adjourn, please.
You might mention the next, meeting.
We don't have it yet.
No, the next,
Redistricting meeting,
no,
council meeting.
what? Yes, comp plan meeting.
Thank you.
Did she?
It's Monday, February 21st, the next public engagement meeting. All the public's invited. It'll be at Team Up Mentoring at the Monroe Cotton Mills, their event space, 6 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you, Sadie. And Mr. Probst does have one more thing.
Yeah, I glossed over this. This is my fault. I should have got to it in my update, but Mr. Rosenthal wanted to update us on the opioid settlement.
Yeah, just to give you all a heads up, we just got documents in today, so this may not be on y'all's radar screen, but if you're familiar with, and I just want y'all to have a heads up because I have a lot of pages to review between now and March because it'll come before you in March for your consideration, but we have to act on it in March if we're going to opt in. I'll give you a 5-second overview, and then I'll get documents out to y'all. I just got them in today from the administrator for y'all to consider. Opioid litigation. Basically, a lot of the governments at the state levels and city levels went after the opioid manufacturers and the opioid distributors for the pandemic problems that opioid addictions have caused within local jurisdictions. And there was a national settlement that was taking place with the 3 major distributors and one of the main manufacturers back in July. And then the states have been going around and adopting that. And so the state of Georgia, through Attorney General Carr, has adopted it, and so there's an opt-in provision. So essentially, the 5-second version of it is it's what we would consider a class action lawsuit, and the class action members are the local governments and the state governments. And if you choose to opt in, then we will need to take action on that opt-in at the March meeting because the deadline is March 31st. And once we opt in, it basically puts the city of Monroe in the pool or in the pile to receive a pro rata portion of funds that come down from the settlement of the opioid litigation. So it's a whole lot of paperwork. There's more lawyers involved in it than I care to consider. Each settlement agreement is over 800 pages long. I got them today. How much money it is, I can't speak to that. And there's parameters on how the money is to be spent. It's to go towards abating costs related to opioid pandemic in our city and go towards ways to alleviate issues related to opioid pandemic in our city. I'll come back with more information, and I'll try and get information out to y'all sometime in the next week early for your consideration, but you're gonna have to act on it in March. Otherwise, we'll miss the window. So I just wanted y'all to be aware that that's coming down the pipeline. We got the mailers in the mail in January and literally got the paper in the email, the docs in the email this morning. That's all. Thank you.
Pardon my ignorance, Paul. Are we impacted by the opioid epidemic?
I won't speak to that. I think I would let your public safety personnel speak to that and probably your hospital folks speak to it. I think generally the answer is going to be yes, pretty significantly, particularly your public safety.
Okay. Captain?
Dealing with people who are under the influence or are addicted to prescription pills regularly.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, we'll definitely look into that. I appreciate you bringing it to us. That being said, I need a motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Malcolm, is there a second?
Second.
By Ms. Crawford. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate your coming.